Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. And y'all, today I wanted to come in and do something that I have never done before. But it's been on my heart and I have been struggling, you know, since this occurred. And I feel kind of lost sometimes. So back in October of last year, my brother was sick. And we knew he had had a couple little things going on with him, and we just assumed that it was that. But it wasn't. He told my other brother that he had been given a terminal cancer diagnosis. Now, I am the oldest of four, and this brother is my second. He's next to me. He's 13 months younger than what I am. Our two younger siblings, there is a 3-year gap between the third sibling and me, and then there is an almost 8-year gap between me and the youngest. So the brother that is 13 months younger than me, he and I, we we kind of grew up together, okay? So when he was told, and then I found out, I called him and I spoke to him about it because honestly I couldn't believe it. I just said our younger brother told me this, and I wanted to know, is this true? And he said yes. We talked a little bit, but all during the conversation, in the back of my mind, I was saying, no, this can't be true, you know? Well, he told us that probably the third week of September. The last week of September, he called me and he said, can I come over your house? And I said, yeah. He said, today I'm going to quit my job because I can see that I can't do it any longer. So that was on a Friday. And he told me that he wanted to talk to me before he went into his bosses and just explained to them what was going on and that he was going to need to quit. So I waited that day for him, but he didn't show up. So I called him that evening to make sure he was okay and to see what was up. And he told me, I just wanted to go home and I'll be over tomorrow. So Saturday morning I woke up, and waited for him to call me, and then I called him. And he says, yes, I'm on my way. I kind of forgot what exit to get off of because I live across town from him. So I stayed on the phone with him as he was driving over and, just, kind of walked him through what exit to get off of and, all the whole nine. So he gets here and he's walking across the parking lot to my unit. And as his sister, he looks so vulnerable to me. It's the first time in my life that I looked at my brother and, y'all, I hope I can get through this. There was a love that I felt for him in that moment that I had never felt before. I felt so protective as his big sister. He made it in, and I have this rule in my house: when you come in, you gotta take your shoes off. He had like a backpack on his back, and he had a bag, and he told me that he couldn't untie his shoes. So I bent and I untied them for him. And he went and he sat on my couch, and I thought he was laughing. I was putting his boots up and I thought he was laughing. But when I looked at him, he was crying really bad. And he said, I made it. I made it over here. And he just told me, he asked me to hold him, and he told me that he was scared. So I held my brother till he stopped crying. I'm 58 and my brother was 57. We sat on the couch and we talked, you know, just talked about a lot of things, nothing serious. We just talked. So, eventually the mood lightened and he said something like, "Oh, shoot, I forgot whose house I'm over." And he said, "Would you do me a favor?" And I was like, "Yeah, anything." He said, "Would you cook dinner for me?" And I was like, "Of course I will." And he said, "But I have a special order." And I was like, "Whatever you want, I'll try to make it happen." He wanted me to cook him meatloaf with gravy, homemade mashed potatoes, green beans, corn on the cob, and he wanted some cornbread. So he goes upstairs. I go in the kitchen, start defrosting things, gathering up everything that I need to cook. Cooked the meal, took it up to him. He was upstairs doing something with his fantasy football or whatever it was. I give him the plate, I go back downstairs, and I hear him say, "Oh my God, oh my God." So I run to the bottom of the stairs and I say, "What is it?" And I say his name. And he said, "Big sister, this food is so good. Thank you so much." So, I cleaned up the kitchen, you know, gave him my bedroom, and I slept on the couch. The next morning I woke up and I went upstairs and my brother was different. The man that came over the day before no longer existed. What I went upstairs to was someone who was very sick. He was weak and, he couldn't really get out the bed and he seemed a little confused. So I basically told him to stay in the bed and, I went down and made him something to eat, got him things to drink to keep him hydrated, took it upstairs and he ate what he could and I just went back downstairs and, let him rest. I told him to rest. I got him. I was on the phone talking to my mother and I heard noise upstairs. And then I heard my brother yelling, just yelling. I dropped the phone and ran upstairs. And it was like he was asleep, but he was struggling to wake up. And I jumped on top of him and I was shaking him and I was saying his name, "Wake up, it's okay, I'm here, whatever it is, I'm here." When he kind of woke up a little bit, he said something like, "Shell, I was scared. I just didn't know where they were taking me and I wasn't ready to go. And I was just scared." And then he kind of collapsed again and like went back to wherever he was in a dream state. And then I was afraid, so I was shaking him again and I was like, "Wake up, wake up." But this time when he came to with a kind of smile and a peace on his face. And he said, "It's okay. I'm ready. It's okay. I just didn't know where they were taking me and I was scared." He told me that he felt like he was being pulled to the other side and he wasn't ready yet. He was scared. He didn't know where he was going. After that, every day that he was here in my home, he declined a little bit more than the day before. There was another time that by this time my mother had came over and she was staying with me too. And we were downstairs, and once again I heard a noise. I took off running up the stairs. When I got upstairs, my brother, he was sitting in the chair in my room, and he just looked frozen, and I realized that he wasn't breathing. By this time my mother made it upstairs, and I was yelling and screaming to my mother, "He's not breathing, he's not breathing." My mom told me to call 911, and she started administering CPR on him. When 911 got on the phone, I handed the phone to my mother and I picked up where she left off. I remember putting my mouth on his, and he was so warm. And I was holding his nose and I was breathing for him. And just as his big sister, I just wanted so much to breathe life back into him. My mother handed me the phone because they were asking for my address, and my mother at the moment couldn't think of it. So she handed the phone back to me, and I started talking to 911, giving them my address, and I heard my brother cough. And, because my mother had been administering CPR on him, and he started coughing. And, my brother is the type that is a stickler on paying your bills and keeping your credit up. So when he came out of it, he was like, did you guys pay my rent? Did you pay my bills? Did you do this? So I'm thinking, oh my God, he just went through all this and he comes to talking about his bills. But I was just so happy to hear his voice. A few days later, downstairs again, I hear something hit the floor really hard. I run upstairs again. My brother is on the floor. I realize that he's having some type of seizure. Once again, I call 911. My brother comes out of it just as 911 is pulling up, and he doesn't realize what has happened, because he was saying that he didn't want to go to the hospital, and I was telling him, what happened, and you have to go, okay? He went to the hospital. He was in there for a few days. They stabilized him, and because of everything that happened in my house, I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I want him to be somewhere where, someone with a lot, with experience can take care of him. So he went home from there, and we were getting him a home health aide and setting up for a nurse to come in and all of that. But in the meantime, he had another episode and he had to go back to the hospital. When he went back, as the days progressed, things were getting worse, much worse. And I remember one morning my son called me and he said, "Mom, I think you need to go up to the hospital. Unc is not doing so well. He's in a lot of pain and he's being a bit combative. He won't allow them to, draw his blood, just different things." So I jump up, get dressed, go up to the hospital. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I get there, and when I walk into his room, he's away having tests done. And then when they bring him back, we sit and talk. And I remember he fell asleep, and I was just standing on the side of his bed, just looking at my brother. And realizing how much I loved him, and realizing that everything he told me was going to happen, was really going to happen, because I think that I hadn't come to terms with it yet. I didn't believe it, you know? I believed it, but then in my heart, I really didn't. So he was in the hospital for a few days, and I go up there another morning. I remember this being Saturday, and I'm up there. When I get there, I come in. I know my brother has had a particularly bad night. He told me that he was in pain, and this is the first time that he really acknowledged the pain, because when I would ask him before, he would say, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay. How's everybody else doing?" I know this has to be hard on everybody. But this morning, he said to me, "I'm just a man. Yesterday I was one man, and today I'm another man. And no man should take the pain that I'm going through." And I was standing there by his bed, and I was just like running my fingers through his hair and just, rubbing him and just trying to comfort him. So we talked a little bit, and he said, "Rochelle, can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Of course, I'm his big sister." He said, "Am I staying here for you guys, or am I staying here for myself?" I told my little brother, I'm sorry, y'all, I had to stop for a minute. I told him that if there is a place that is calling to him, and in that place he is free from pain, to go there. Just let go, and that we will be okay. So he looked at me and he said, "Okay, okay." Now, in the meantime, our other brother, who lives in another city, was on his way here. So my brother had asked me, how far is he away? So at the time, I didn't actually know that he was on his way, so I was like, "I don't know." And he said, "He'll be here shortly." So eventually, our other brother arrived. He comes up to the hospital, and my brother that's in the hospital acknowledged that he was there. He did realize he was there. So by this time, it's a lot of family up at the hospital. It's me, my mom, an uncle of ours, my sister, my little brother, my son. We're all up there. So the hospital gave him something to just keep him calm, because that day, like I said, he was being a bit combative. So they had given him something to calm him down. And, they were, running some tests on him. And, during that time, because the room was little, we went out to this little waiting area right outside his room. We were sitting there, and then all hell broke loose. My brother coded. We all took off running towards the room, but of course they held us back. There were doctors and nurses running from everywhere. And all I could remember is that sound and that light above his room. You know, we were standing there crying. They had to hold us back. They sent and got a chaplain, and she asked us if we would like her to pray for us. And we said, "Please do." Eventually, the doctor came out and told us that, they were getting him stabilized. They were going to take him to ICU. That there were going to be some people that come and get us, and they were going to take us to the area, but give them time to get him stabilized. We go down to ICU. We're down there for hours and hours and hours. Eventually, a doctor comes and sits down, and they start telling us everything that's going on with him. They explained to us that they were afraid to do any more tests on him because they were worried that his heart might stop. And they asked us that if it did, what did we want to do? Did we want them to save him, bring him back? But what they explained is that if they did, it would cause him more distress because of all the things that they told us were going on inside his body. So after we heard everything that was going on, we were like, no, we don't want you to bring him back. So we sat and we waited. And then they called us again about an hour later. And we went back into the room with my brother. And there was a doctor there. And he was telling us about these numbers that we were seeing on the monitor above my brother's bed. He told us what they should be and where they were. He explained to us that all these machines that were hooked onto him, they were breathing for him. They were keeping his heart beating and everything. So they told us it was time to make a decision. Whether we wanted them to turn everything off. This was November 12th. My brother found out in September, and this was November 12th. So knowing everything that was going on inside his body, we said, cut it off. Cut everything off, turn it off. So they told us before they do it, they would give him, something that would calm him and that he wouldn't be in pain. And my mom asked him how long would he survive after they cut everything off, turned everything off. The doctor said it was basically up to him. It could be minutes, it could be hours, but it wouldn't be that long. Now by this time, I had been, on an emotional roller coaster. I had been at the hospital since probably 8 o'clock in the morning. So when I sat down, I dozed off. And I just remember my daughter shaking me and saying, Mom, wake up, it's time. So I go back into my brother's room, and I don't know what I expected. But when I was standing there, I noticed all the machines were off of him, and I was just looking at him. And when I was staring at him, I realized that his chest wasn't going up and down. He wasn't breathing. So I kind of took a step back, and I looked at my other brother, and I was like, what? And my brother can kind of read my face, and he said, he's gone. He's gone, Rachel. I'm so sorry, y'all. You know how they say that you don't realize how much you love a person until they're gone? I never dreamed anything like this. I thought we would age, we would get older, we'd be cracking on each other how, we age and how bad we look, and, now we're old. We would be talking about our grandkids together because neither him or I have grandkids yet. And that day at 1:30 in the morning, my brother was called home. And ever since that day, you know, it's been hard. I had a dream one night because I during the time that my brother was sick, he was really worried about making sure that he was baptized, and that he had expressed to me that he was worried whether he was going to go to heaven. And me and him had this whole conversation, and I was telling him, you've been a decent man. You've been a knucklehead sometime, but you've been a good guy. You've not done anything bad. You're going to heaven. And I just remember him being worried. So after he passed, I was thinking, wondering, I hope he's where he wanted to be. I was so worried about it for him after he passed. So one night, I was asleep, and in my dream, my brother came to me. He climbed in my bed like I did when he was here, and I would climb into bed with him, and it woke me up. And he told me that he was okay, and he was asking me how everyone was doing. And he was always concerned. Even though he was sick, he was always concerned with how it was affecting us. And I said, we're fine, we'll be okay. And he said, I just wanted you to know that I'm okay. I know you've been worried about me. And y'all, I believe with everything that I have, that it really was him. So in my sleep, I remember being really sleepy, and he was just talking to me, and I was just laying there. We were facing each other in my bed, just talking as siblings still. And I remember I stopped talking because I was laying there with my eyes closed, and I just wanted to listen to his voice. And in my dream, I dozed off. And when I woke up, he was gone. And today is March 6th, and to this day, I believe it was him. Just coming back to let his overprotective, bossy big sister know that he was okay. I wanted to do this video because, like I said at the beginning, I've been struggling a lot. I know sometimes after, you have a death in the family, those around you who love you, they don't know what to say to you anymore. You want to talk about them, and sometimes you feel like people are tired of hearing about it, but you're living it every day. And today, I was thinking about him. I have his picture sitting behind me at my desk, and I talk to him every day. Say good morning, tell him about my day, what I have on the agenda. But today, when I did that, I was in a mood, y'all. I was crying. So I just wanted to come in and, tell you what I've been going through. And just know that some of the things that I talked to my brother about when, he was sick, and that day he actually passed, like the morning he passed, we had a good conversation, and what we talked about and what I witnessed with him and some of the things he told me. I've always believed in God. Always felt that there was a higher power watching over us. But just experiencing that with my brother and some of the things he said, I know that there is a higher power, that there is a God, that there is another place that we go when we pass on. I know it just from watching the things that he went through. From the time my brother was diagnosed to the time he actually passed was about a month and a half, mere weeks. So when he passed, I wasn't ready. I thought that surely we had months. Surely we had time. But on the same token, I'm so glad that he didn't suffer for long. You know, that day when he was in pain, like I said, I'm his big sister. I didn't want to see him in pain. I didn't want him to feel pain. So when he asked me, was he staying for us or was he staying for himself, I didn't even give him an answer. I told him, if there's a place that's pulling you away, and in that place there's no more pain, go there. We'll be okay. And within about an hour and a half of me telling him that, it's like I released him and he went home. I know that he's always with me. I feel him at times. He only has one child, a son, and my nephew will be getting married here in a few weeks in April. And I was just telling my son today that when we're there, I want them to leave an empty seat. Well, two. Because not only did my nephew lose his dad, who was my brother, at the age of 28, he lost his mom when he was 18 to cancer as well. So I would like for them to leave two seats and put a card, a beautiful card with their names in those chairs. One for his mom and one for my brother, who was his dad. And I want to sit by those two chairs or in between those two chairs because I know on the day that their son is married that they're going to be there. And I want to sit beside them and watch their baby being married. Y'all, I'm going to get out of here. I just wanted to share that with you and ask you to pray for me, my mom, my dad, my family, because this is hard. Thank y'all for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.